What's going on, y'all? It's JD Pickell. Today on the Hard Count, is Alabama out of the Arch Manning sweepstakes, and what does this mean for Texas and Georgia? We will discuss next. Welcome into CFB with JD, the People's Channel. Everything you know, everything you love about college football, it happens here on a nearly daily basis. Armstrong Sims, Jack McKenzie, doing the heavy lifting. You can help drive the show at my Twitter page, at JD Pickell. So Arch Manning has had one of the most well-documented recruitments, it feels like, in all of high school sports. He's been very to the vest. He follows nobody on Twitter, has a blue check, and has a bio that reads high school student. Dude has got some swag about himself, but the three schools that have consistently been in the rotation in the conversation segment have been Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Florida has gotten a little bit more buzz as of late, but I'm still looking at these three schools until as of recently. And again, this is more of a rumbling than fact, but the Sideline Sports Network Twitter page for Alabama cited a verified source, a verified Twitter page, I should say, that Alabama was no longer in the running for Arch Manning. So there's a lot to break down here, a lot to dissect, a lot to sift through as to if this is even true, but let's look at some more credible sources. The On3 recruiting prediction machine has Alabama at a 15% chance to land Arch Manning behind Georgia and the number one choice of Texas. So any way you slice and dice this, Alabama is fading behind these two schools of Georgia and Texas. What is the most important thing to Arch Manning, from our vantage point, for his recruitment? One is development. Guy wants to be in the best possible position after his college career to be a first-round NFL draft pick and be the most pro-ready quarterback that he could possibly be. Second, he wants to play on a big stage. Georgia and Texas check both these boxes emphatically. Alabama checks these boxes emphatically as well, except for that first one you got to take a closer look at, development. I think development falls under longevity of a coaching staff. Nick Saban's not going anywhere. Don't get it twisted. Nick Saban's staying there until he wants to leave. But Bill O'Brien, a guy that I think, if you look at the track record of coordinators at Alabama, he's probably coming up on his final season, if not final two seasons. The bottom line, he probably won't be the offensive coordinator for the entirety of Arch Manning's career should he choose Alabama. So Arch Manning is saying, okay, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to have a staff be with me from the start of my career to the end of my career and allow me to progress under that same offense, that same playbook, that same coach. I want to have that relationship be solidified. I want to have this scheme be solidified around me that I can grow into. So I think that is the biggest piece that Alabama is lacking in the pitch for Arch Manning. It's not Alabama's fault because they're a factory. Both players and coaches go there for a little bit, then go to the pros. That's just the way that it goes. It's not necessarily a knock on Alabama, but for what Arch Manning requires and is looking for in a school, it doesn't play the best hand. So let's look back at what this means for Texas and Georgia. If it's a two-horse race, it's looking more and more like Texas. Gary Hamilton, recruiting analyst for On3, put in a prediction recently for Texas. I think Texas is something like 44%, if not a little bit more, in terms of the recruiting prediction machine by On3 to land Arch Manning. Texas looks like the leader in the clubhouse. Pros and cons of Texas. The pros, Steve Sarkisian. We said it ad nauseum on this program, but Arch Manning has said before Steve Sarkisian is a, quote, football genius. For Arch Manning, a guy that's grown up around football geniuses, both his uncles being Eli and Peyton Manning, that means something. The guy's not just throwing this term out there loosely like he's never, ever been around someone who knows football. His uncles, one of which being arguably the best quarterback, second best quarterback of all time behind Tom Brady, that holds some weight. Okay, so for him to hold Steve Sarkisian in such high esteem, I think is a crucial piece to this. Second, longevity of the staff. We talked about that. With Bama, it's a knock. With Texas, I think it's a pro. Now, the big piece is, can they win this upcoming season? In Steve Sarkisian's second year, it's got to be a little bit of a show-me year because they've revamped the culture, they've revamped the locker room via the transfer portal, via NIL as that carrot to get guys in the door. This is a show-me year for Texas. Not just for the administration, but I think also for Arch Manning. If you have a solid showing early in the season, even look solid against Alabama, I think that will do a lot for Arch Manning's recruitment if he hasn't already committed by then. Finally, it puts UT back on the map. If you're Arch Manning, you come up and ball there. Like, you want to be the guy to get a lot of buzz, to get a lot of praise from scouts or whatever it may be. You want to be the guy. Put a school like Texas back on the map nationally, and you'll be the guy. The cons are Quinn Ewers is kind of the guy right now. And assuming that Texas plays well this upcoming season, Quinn Ewers would likely have had to play well. And so you walk in and you're a little bit more in a, I don't want to say quarterback battle, because ultimately you're just waiting behind Ewers. I think that's fair to say. That's maybe generalizing a little bit and filling in some blanks that we don't really have yet. But bottom line, he would be waiting behind Quinn Ewers more than likely should he choose Texas, and should he choose a Texas that's in a successful spot, which I think is sort of the chicken and the egg. If you want to get Arch Manning in the boat, you got to win some games. How do you win some games? Good quarterback play. Good quarterback play likely means you don't need Arch Manning to start as a true freshman. I don't know if that means a ton to him, but I think it's a story we got to look at if we're going to look at cons the rest of the way. Second con that potentially you could be looking at for Texas, how functional is that machine? Right? Because look at Georgia, just won a natty a year ago. That thing is humming. I know they lost guys to the draft. I know they're going to have to replace at some positions, but that machine is built out. That Death Star is fully operational. At Texas, they went 5-7 a year ago. Even if they take a leap this upcoming year, is that machine necessarily foolproof? Did they win some games via bounce of the ball? Is that apparatus that's supposed to win games fully sound? You can answer that question emphatically yes with Georgia. With Texas, there's a little more risk involved. I think that's okay, but if there's a con for Texas, again, sitting behind Ewers potentially, and the lack of certainty within the Texas program going forward and winning games. For Georgia, and again, this is the second horse in the race according to a lot of people right now, but Georgia, the pros are off the charts. Todd Monken, NFL pedigree, probably going to be there for a while. Chance to compete as a true freshman. If Stetson Bennett leaves after this year, which I think he has to leave after this year, if Stetson Bennett isn't your guy next year, it's going to be a wide open quarterback race. Arch Manning, you get there in the spring, able to put on a show in the spring, have a chance to compete for that starting spot. Talk about development, playing as a true freshman, have 3-ish years to develop and get to the pros. That would do a lot for your draft stock. Also, you play in the SEC. And I want to be careful how I go about this, because I know there's a lot of emotions surrounding the 3 letters that are the SEC. You either love them or you hate them. Nobody's indifferent on that conference. But however you slice it, it is an enormous stage. And if you are to play well in the SEC, NFL Junior, you answer a lot of questions that scouts would otherwise have about you if you played in a lesser conference. I'm not going to name conferences. If you played in a lesser conference, you have questions about, likely, the level of competition. You don't have to deal with that. You play in the SEC and you play well. So that's something to look at. Those are a lot of the pros with Georgia. Also, not to knock Stetson Bennett, but if you can win a national title and you're Stetson Bennett, you can probably do a lot of great things if you're Arch Manning in that system. I'm not going to touch that too much more. The cons, kind of going back to that offense, there's the nitpicky answer of, oh, well, he's a system quarterback. You go to Georgia and you have so much around, you don't have to do that much. You just get the ball to your playmakers. Double-edged sword. It's a luxury and it's a con, but I'm not going to get too much into that. It's something that I think he would have to talk about the duration of his college career. System quarterback, in quotes. Not a huge deal, but something to look at. Hand in hand with that, the pressure. The pressure of walking into a place like Georgia that's already built out. If you don't win at Georgia, it's your fault, Arch Manning. Because if you go to Texas and win, wow, Arch Manning, you're the man. If you go to Georgia and win, well, that's expected. You were supposed to win. We just won our first national championship last year. Not first national championship. First national championship in I don't know how many years. Likely have a great season this upcoming year. There's a lot of expectations around that program. Not to say there's not at Texas. I think there's more patience at Texas than there would be at Georgia. If you come out and you're Arch Manning and you have a bad 2 games, there may be rumblings of, oh, is he the right guy? We've got somebody else in the wings that's pretty good. Carson Beck's pretty good. Brock Vandergriff is pretty good. We don't want to have them playing. Pressure. I don't think that bothers him, but it's something that comes with the territory at Georgia. Comes with the territory at Texas too, but again, they've won at Georgia. They haven't really been winning at Texas lately. All that's to say, my pick originally was Georgia, If I had to pick a horse in the race right now, there is too much smoke trending towards Texas for me to pick against Texas. So I'll pick Texas right now. Again, we reserve our right to change our answer on this show, but right now, Texas is the leader in the clubhouse. We're going to trust our eyes. We're going to trust our information and believe Texas is the leader right now to land Arch Manning. Bama, sounds like they're out of it. Texas, sounds like Arch Manning is yours to lose. That's it for us here on the Hard Count. This is CFB with JD. Appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter at JD Piquel to stay up with everything we're doing here. We appreciate you tuning in. We're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time.